Hey guys, it's Matt. Welcome back to the Old Fashioned Radio Show, which is never a 1.25 exercise for those that want to run back into the bathroom. Hopefully by now you've tucked the kids in or put them in their room where they're busily trying to decode Little Orphan Annie's message using their Ovaltine decoder rings. You've stoked the fire. You have your Genesee cream ales lined up in front of you, or your Coke and Jack. Coke and Jack. The people that listen to this, it's not Coke with a splash of Jack. That's a Jack and Coke. It's Coke with Jack. It's Jack with a tiny little splash of Coke. If anyone listening has stumbled upon this video by mistake from anywhere in the world, say you're looking for Joe Biden's greatest presentations and you found this by mistake, I hope you stick with this. Although very early on, you'll think this is a transmission from another planet. You just saw Another Earth a few weeks ago. That other Earth that matches this Earth in its mirror gets bigger and bigger out the window with the girl from the OA. You'll think this is a transmission from the other Earth where your doppelganger resides in the same exact town at the same exact address that you do. By the way, Another Earth, pretty darn good movie, I think, considering especially it was a low-budget movie. But that doesn't matter anymore. Low budget, high budget. I mean, look at Disney. I mean, and if anything were real, which it isn't, they're producing everything they're producing bad on purpose, as we've talked about. And I'm not going to get into that because I've said it many times. But it's so simple to see through it. They would simply fire their whole staff and go out to whoever made some of these great, smaller indie movies. And they'd hire them. And that's if they were trying. They are trying, actually. They're trying to make it bad. So I've been watching the super low budget, like YouTube movie about time travel. I don't know what it's called right now. I'm not even halfway through it. If it's really good, I'll come back and definitely recommend it to you. I think it's like one of these low-budget movies that just is for YouTube. Like a guy and his 5 friends put it on. But considering that, it's really good so far. Anyway, the point is, it's about that same old time travel scenario where the guy comes and approaches himself. In this movie, there's a hole in the floor in a motel room. Get in the hole in the floor and you come out of the hotel and it's like a different time. By the way, Primer is without a doubt probably the best low budget movie for time travel. Primer. I don't know what this one's called. I'll report back to you. But the point is, it's that same old time travel scenario. The guy comes and approaches himself. Like himself, in this time, he's trying to unchain a bicycle. Here comes himself along the fence, down the path. And of course, like, are you me? You know, like, yeah. And it's always the same thing, right? When somebody's talking to their self, just even 10 minutes in the past or 10 days in the past, the one in the future always has the superior position. They're always like, you shut up and listen to me. Are you me? Shut up and listen to me. They're always like, you know, they're never friendly to themselves. Like, hey, Matt, oh my God, it's so nice to meet. They're always like pissed off and like, shut up and listen. You, that's me 10 minutes ago in the past that I have a superior position over because I happen to be 4 seconds in the future. And the guy's like, don't go to this motel. Now, the whole point of me telling you the story is I've thought about this scenario many times with myself coming back to visit Matt, the truth investigator of 2010, 2011, 2012, even 2013. And it wouldn't be these short interactions that we always see in these movies. If you were meeting yourself, you'd probably want to sit down on a park bench for at least an hour, share a hot dog, and tell me about if myself from 2022 told the truth investigator, at that time I'm into the major fake headlines and the fake history and the bang events and what happened, or they say what happened in the mall and they say what happened in the school. Oh, that's the area of truth, as you know, that I came through. But here comes myself from 2022 talking to myself from 2011, and Matt, sit down and shut up, boy. I'm going to tell you about the world in 2022. The point is, you know where I'm going. I wouldn't believe it. I would never have believed it. Well, they're going to introduce this thing, C the V. They're going to put the entire world into this position. Won't there be dissenting voices? No. Sit down and shut up. How did they put the whole world into a mask in 4 to 6 weeks? Come on, sir. I didn't say that back then in 2011, so that would be inaccurate. But I was like, I don't believe you. Well, what do you mean you don't believe? It's me, Matt, talking to Matt. What do you mean you don't believe? It's not some guy that just came out of the woods, sat down here, and asked for a bite of your hot dog. It's Matt talking about Matt. What do you mean you don't believe me? They put the world in this place that you can't even fathom. It's called C the V. And then they reset the bar, and then they said everybody can come out of their pens and cages. Everybody said, oh, the world's back. But nobody noticed, other than us, that the bar is then reset even lower. They do all this shit, the bar goes down, they let the people out of their pens and cages, and then people think, oh, the world's back the way it was, but the bar's been reset even lower. We notice it, but nobody else does. It's an inversion and perversion of the generally positive statement that we've all heard. Oh, take 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Didn't Paula Abdul immortalize that? Generally, it's positive. You take 2 steps forward, and then eventually sometimes you have to take a step back, regroup, make a mistake. You're going to get to where you need to be. They're doing that. They're presenting it as 2 steps forward, 1 step back as positive, but it's the opposite. They move the world 2 steps down into some lower level. Then they take 1 step back and convince everybody that step back brought them back to where they were, but it's still a whole step away. But everybody's convinced, oh, they've let us out of our pens and cages, and we're back to where we were. It's not just C the V. They do this across the board, these sick sons of bitches. Come to think of it, the Paula Abdul thing, I should ask her tonight when I see her. It was 2 steps forward, 2 step back, opposites attract. A duality message in that pop horseshit from the 80s? Yeah, Matt, it's probably a goddamn duality message. It's everywhere. With Paula Abdul, the Laker girl? Even with Paula Abdul, the Laker girl. We come together because opposite... Oh, no. We come together, 2 steps forward, 2... You don't think that's a 2-into-1 religion message? Let's move on. It could be. Could you imagine if somebody stumbled upon this? Some woman in Portland, Maine, combing the internet for Joe Biden's greatest and most inspirational moments in speech, finds this by mistake. Where the hell is Portland, Maine? You know how traumatic it is for a child growing up to have a major city in Maine and a major city in Oregon named the same thing? You know how traumatic that it took me about 10 years to figure that out. And when I figured it out, I couldn't leave the house for a week. It was so traumatic. Come up with a different name. Don't name it the same damn thing so children are confused. Headline: How and why Pantone picked, quote, Viva Magenta as its 2023 color of the year. 2023 color of the year. Typically when somebody's something of the year or something of the year, isn't it in arrears? Whatever that means. Isn't it in the past, like Time Magazine's Person of the Year? It's what they did. Caitlyn Jenner was Glamour Magazine's Person of the Year. No, Woman of the Year. Can they even say that anymore? Caitlyn Jenner was the Woman of the Year, Glamour Magazine. It's in arrears. I'm sorry to use that term associated with Bruce, but you know what I mean. So now they're saying, this is what's coming for your future, Magenta. And let's say, with what Steffers had been saying for 6 months about the Magenta, if we were 99% sure she's getting this right, that this is absolutely like a new layer of reality in some way introduced via the Magenta that the creeps are trying to put forth, like we're like, no, it makes a lot of sense, but we're not. Now it's 100%. It's now... Whatever this Pantone, it's this company. I'll read the damn from the corporate website. I never heard of the company, but they're the biggest player in the world in colors. Viva Magenta. Isn't that mean long live or something? Long live Magenta. Oh, no. What does the article say here? It's official. 2023. By the way, anybody screaming at me, Matt, where's my shout out? I told you about that. 50 people emailed this to me, including Steffers. So I'm sorry. It's official. I appreciate you telling me, even if it was 50 times over, because I don't get any regular news myself in this cave, so I still appreciate it. Returning to the article, it says, it's official. 2023 is the year of Magenta. That's according to the Pantone Color Institute, the authoritative consultancy. What bot wrote this? Bot, you would say something like the authority in color in the United States or in North America since 1905. The authoritative consultancy. Bot, I wouldn't give a squirt of piss for your ass right now. You have a lot of work to do. Let me continue. Its latest pick is none other than Viva Magenta 18-750. That may be the weird-ass numbers that appear on your little $50 tube that you stick into your inkjet. 18-750, 9-12. They moving one past the 9 dot? Maybe. I don't know. I'm not a gematria person. I don't really care how they use that. I'm here to worry about myself. Which is described as, quote, a shade rooted in nature, descending from the red family and expressive of a new signal of strength. They quote Pantone, "Viva Magenta is brave and fearless, and a pulsating color whose exuberance promotes a joyous and optimistic celebration, writing a new narrative." Hey, that's the reality overlay Steffers was telling us what they're going to try to put over top of the old world. They're going to use the magenta. How? I don't know. We just make sure your armor is zipped up to the top, to the neck. We'll protect ourselves. They're going to try to hear it says write a new narrative. You sons of bitches have been trying to write a narrative for hundreds of years. You're the Terminator. You never stop. You want to just go off somewhere and put your feet up for a few months and leave us alone? You go bother someone else. Returning to the article, some skeptics would point out that magenta doesn't technically exist, since there's no wavelength of light that corresponds to that color. But Pantone, which literally wrote the book on color matching in the 60s, defines it as a, quote, nuanced crimson red tone that presents a balance between warm and cool. Magenta is a hybrid in many senses. Oh, hybrid. The color authority says, Pantone, as it straddles the physical and the virtual. Oh, no. He says it's going to use magenta itself, according to Pantone, which comes directly, I'm sure, out of the Ministry of Information's head office at the top floor, quote, straddles the physical and the virtual, the organic and the innovative. Oh, boy. And you didn't have to take our word for it. There it is. Right there. Exactly what Steffers has been telling us for 6 months. But Matt, aren't you going to cover the zombie virus? There's a zombie virus that's coming out of the ice. No, I'm not going to cover that bullshit. And if there's a 1% of a 1% of 1% that it's actually true, good. It'll improve real estate prices. Can get the hell out of here. Probably pick up, if zombies abandon their homes, it will improve real estate prices. But it's bullshit. I don't cover that bullshit. Whatever happened to the bedtime for Bonzopox? Say it fast so the bot isn't aware. Whatever happened to the bedtime? Ronald Reagan was in a movie with the monkey, Bedtime for Bonzo. What happened to the Bonzopox? Matt, don't you know? Everybody went out and got jabbed for it. So it just went, oh, that's what happened. Oh, yeah, okay, I'm sorry. Let's move on. Last part of the article I'll read, quote, it is assertive but not aggressive, this color, a carmine red that does not boldly dominate, but instead takes a fist in a velvet glove approach. Okay, does not dominate, but then like 4 words later is the word fist. That makes sense. That's really how to emphasize when you're not trying to dominate. You put the word fist about 2 words away. That makes a lot of sense. Oh no, Matt, it's a fist in a velvet glove. What's the difference? Just they'll smash you across the face. Exuding dynamism. D-Y-N-A-M-I-S-M. What the hell is that, bot? Pantone 18-17. They're putting a different number in here, a different number for the inkjet cartridge. Before, I assure you, it was 18-750 in this NPR article. That's 9-12. Now they have it correct, 18-1750, which is 18 or 9-13. Oh, is this by mistake? I don't think so, but what does it mean? Who cares? Viva Magenta is transformative red tone, capable of driving design to create a more positive future. Guys, sometimes to get the real meaning or intention of a long sentence or two or a paragraph, you just remove all the fluff and just look at the key terms that are being emphasized. You just break it down to 5 words, and that's the takeaway. So what I just read, it's assertive, does not boldly dominate, but it's a fist. It's transformative. Drives design, creates a more positive future. So it's assertive, it's a fist, it drives the future. That's what's being said here. I'm not massaging this for my own aims. This is what is being said. Going away from the NPR article, other columnists or famous, journalists that, of course, I've never heard of, a guy named Jeff Benjamin on Twitter says about it, Visuals designed with the help of AI are part of what Pantone is calling the Magentaverse. Oh, come on. As virtual worlds become a more prominent part of our daily lives, we look to draw inspiration from nature and what is real, says Latrice Eisman, executive director at Pantone. The Magentaverse and associating with AI and virtual worlds. Steffers, I've got to ask, did you get this from anywhere, or did you start noticing the magenta, and what the heck these creeps were doing? I mean, I think it was Steffers that she found it herself, but she may have been inspired with the help of a few others that she works with. This is one of the greatest calls getting ahead of what the creeps are up to regarding how they try to influence reality itself of all time. Here's another quote from another source. Viva Magenta, as the color of the year for 2023, welcomes everybody to the Magentaverse, where the real world intersects with the virtual world. I'm sorry to laugh, guys, but what am I supposed to do? Cry? I've trained myself to laugh instead of cry. And perhaps the worst one at all, from something called designboom.com, covering the Pantone color of the year, magenta, Viva Magenta, skipping down. Its hue flirts with joyous and optimistic entrance of a new generation, one that is defined by the chat-generated like Mid-Journey and text-to-image powered present and future decades. It's quoting, the leading, like DALL-E, AI, quote, art company, and referencing text-to-image power. Oh, come. So it's this whole... What's happening? I mean, just in this one quote, I mean, you think somebody at Design Boom wrote this, or it's coming strategically and methodically from the Ministry of Information top floor? Of course it is. Nobody's just writing articles with this stuff. And it's probably, since you'd have so many people that have to be in on it, again, whoever said 5 years ago to me, Matt, that shit's all bot-driven. It turns out they were right. It's like, come on, there's got to be real people, right? Matt, listen to me. That shit is bot-driven. It doesn't come from the top floor of the Ministry of Information. It comes from the Whopper computer that's in the basement. They're probably right. They've been right. It's all a coordinated... It's incredible how it's beyond what any person could do in the smoking room, but it doesn't matter. Here it's incorporating what we've been talking about recently, the AI, quote, art, the text-to-image generators, DALL-E, Mid-Journey, Stable Diffusion, and that's associated with the magenta. Oh, I don't even know where to go from this. I got to pause and collect my damn thoughts. Matt, this is supposed to be the old-fashioned radio show. I'm on my 4th Genesee Cream Ale. I've got the fire going. I want to relax here. You're talking about hardcore negative truth where there's an override of reality itself using triggers inside the color spectrum. This is scary shit. I want to have fun during the old-fashioned radio show, you son of a beach. I hear you. But we got to finish this segment now, don't we? I know that there's sponsors coming up like Tuck Guard, so come on, just give me a few minutes. I can't end this now. As I paused for a few minutes, collect my thoughts, Bootsy came over, cried for more food. I had to feed her for the 5th time. It's just before 10 o'clock. 5, because if you feed her too much, she'll yak, which she did yak all over my chair this morning, so she's been fed 5 times. But it's, I went to my email. There's another email from Steffers, which shows me a page on the Pantone website, where at the bottom, huge font, gigantic hashtag, it says, "Welcome to the Magentaverse." So they've now transitioned Zuck the Borg's Big Green Egg and his sweet baby Ray's metaverse into the Magentaverse. Welcome to the Magentaverse. Why is that so familiar? It's like Triple X. Welcome to the Xander Zone. Now that's funny. What is this? Igor's a big action sports fan, so naturally he spilled the beans after he slugged down his 5th bottle of vodka. Yeah, welcome to the Magentaverse. Matt, how do we deal with this? Very simple. Couldn't be any more simple. First off, we know 100% now this is some next phase of the agenda. Now, it is Steffers' nature to dive into the weeds on this much harder, and the reality will continue to deliver. I would suggest none of us dive into this anymore. Will we truly ever understand to the exact degree how this introduction of magenta, of which I don't think it's just the creeps, as I've said, introducing it, it also starts to bleed through reality, quote, not naturally, but naturally, if you know what I mean. But not the bleed through of the magenta is the unnatural reality bleeding through. It's not, but it's planted and then it propagates itself. There's no reason to look at this in more detail. That goes for me, you. This is my advice to Steffers and others. We will never exactly know how they are using this color, the color spectrum, all the other weird, creepy shit that they've done in the past, how they actually change and manipulate reality itself. You may say that's the spell over the ship of fools and the masses on the ship of fools, or actually a change to reality itself. We're never going to understand the ins and outs of that weird, creepy horse shit. So why bother trying? In the end of the day, in terms of what, here we go, Matt, you're going to say the same two sentences? Yes. In terms of what we need to do here for ourselves, if we get any further into the weeds on the magenta, whatever, then we are not here doing what we're supposed to do for ourselves. Well, Matt, you've wasted all this time, you and Steffers, everybody, having us look at it. No, as I've said, people keep dissenting to me in the same way. Noticing the tactics of your enemy is essential. But to overcome it, it's like when they read the Latin spells and all the Harry Potter parcel tongue, the snake tongue. You do the affirmations. I see what they're trying to do to the masses or to reality. You just affirm it, that it doesn't work on you. You keep strengthening your own armor. Most of you listening to this are saying, Matt, my armor is so good now, I don't have to strengthen it anymore. I don't have to polish it or oil it up like the Tin Man anymore. And if you're at that level and you believe your armor, as I believe, is so strong that nothing can affect you in terms of what they are trying to do to reality. That's why there's a bigger and bigger divide between you talking to your sister or you talking to your cousin or interacting with your best friend. The divide gets bigger and bigger. The ship sails. You're on the bank. Most of us are saying, I don't need to do anymore. And okay, but nevertheless, we still can see the magenta, which we'll do collectively right now. Pantene, Pantene, you've already failed. Whatever, Steffers and a few others were so far ahead of this. Whatever you're trying to do with the magenta for the color of the year in 2023 or whatever, we've all seen through it. You've already failed. And not just on us, you've actually failed on your use of magenta on the masses. It's failed. Well, who said so? I said so. Matt, we don't have that power. Why don't we have that power? At the very minimum, we do the affirmations for ourselves. We're not going to figure out exactly how reality is manipulated through a color. Okay, we're just not. Okay, I don't think we're not that sophisticated as a being in this governed down avatar body. We're just not there. But the point is not to go there. We are incredibly powerful in putting up our own defenses and our own armor and seeing something and then saying that doesn't work and imagining a different outcome. That's all we can do. And it's not nothing. Trust me, guys, it is not nothing. But I'm not going to go in the weeds on this anymore. I'm still thrilled how it played out, and we saw right through it. And everything Steffers suggested to me actually played out. But what's the nature of what they do? They play a trick. They always play a trick. What is a trick by definition? The person being tricked doesn't know they're being tricked. They don't know how they're being manipulated. Thus, the definition of a trick. So even if we do nothing else, if the trick, they didn't come out and announce in a billboard, even if they put it in a special publication, circular magazine or white paper just for truthers. Truthers, we want to let you know that we're going to manipulate in some way reality using this color magenta that doesn't really exist on the color spectrum. This is how we're going to manipulate reality. It's nothing new. They operate in stealth mode via a trick. They don't come right out and say, this is from A to Z, what our next tactics look like. Matt, would you like to approve it before you make videos about it? So therefore, by definition, we've already exposed the trick. The magician is approaching the third grade birthday party, and the kids are calling out the tricks before he's even done anything. That's what we've done here. That has to, by definition, remove at least a good amount of power from the trick. And somebody may be screaming at me, throwing rubber duckies while they're heating up their bathwater, saying, well, Matt, yes, we've protected ourselves again in this community, but we're not helping the masses on the ship of fools, that whatever they're trying to do with the magenta, the ship of fools passengers, as usual, are going to be fooled and are going to go further and further into whatever this reality overlay or things we don't understand. I don't know. That's possible. But I would think by exposing it, even inside of our own circles, even though my friend Tony doesn't believe what I have to say or your sister doesn't believe what you have to say, I would still think we've drawn power away from the trick, even before the trick, or if the trick is mostly meant to continue to fool those on the ship of fools. I don't think I'm just saying that to make myself feel better. We are a third grade birthday party calling out the damn tricks. The magician pulls out a deck of cards. He's like, he's going to put the ace on top. And the magician's like, yeah, I was going to put the ace on top. Then he pulls out a hat. There's a rabbit without a foot that's going to cut. How'd you know that? See, and then maybe word will spread, but not maybe like 100 monkeys. My Tony's never going to believe me, but we've exposed the trick. And I do believe we've drawn power away from this trick and all the other tricks that we've seen through. Most of the truth community is still falling for the trick by propagating exactly what they want. Well, Matt, aren't you continuing to propagate the magenta and give it? Yes, that's why we have to basically wrap this up and move on. So to wrap it up, let's just do the waste of time truth or pursuit elements and put them in the right place so we can put a nice bow on this. And look, if there's some major magenta drop, I'm going to come back and talk about it again. Let's say they paint the White House magenta, or light it up in magenta for like 4 weeks. Okay, I'll probably come back. Not everybody heard this video, right? I mean, people are like, why are you going to talk about it again? Because like most of the subscriber base isn't going to even hear this video. Some subscriber base are at the first grade, some just cleared a field. Not everybody's on the same page. The biggest mistake this group makes is that they think everybody's on the same page as them. Like once a month I get beaten up by a super Jedi, like a Yoda. Matt, why are you going back? Or are you doing the screen again? Oh, okay, you're Yoda, right, but that means everybody's Yoda. Everybody's been doing this for 12 to 15 years with full comprehension. There's no new people in the back, no spitballers, no people that just cleared a field. If you're Super Yoda and you go back to the Dagobah system. Go back to the Dagobah system in that swamp if I'm repeating the same things. I'm not doing this channel for super Jedis. I try to keep the super Jedis here in the old guard, but this is not, mostly it's for bringing along the 5th graders and the 8th graders to the graduation level. That is the purpose of my channel and why it returns to the bog. We're here. If it was just super Jedis, the subscriber base would be a lot lower, and we'd be saying the same 2 sentences in every video. That's no fun. Okay, the best way to wrap this up is before we have other topics for the old-fashioned radio show, the useless elements, seeing how useless they are, all the things that they have trained the truthers to pursue for every single thing they've ever presented. So, for the magenta, the who of it, who? Well, the same old creeps, the ones that have always been here manipulating reality and screwing over what they call the human being. That's the who. We know that. That applies every single time. The what? The what is interesting, but we're not going to get any more information than we already have. They're somehow manipulating the color spectrum. They're pushing forth a color called magenta that doesn't even exist on the wavelength spectrum to maybe replace or take the place of the emerald green. They're using colors to manipulate reality in some way. Well, Matt, explain that. We won't know exactly any more than that. Okay, they are literally using it, there's no doubt, to manipulate reality. If that in some way puts a spell over the masses or those in the ship of fools, or they're more willing to adopt a virtual world for themselves or step into a virtual environment, then that is a manipulation of reality. We'll never know exactly, but we know what's going on here very confidently. The where? Well, they're doing it all over what you call planet Earth, and they're using, as usual, the internet. The when? Well, they're doing it right now to us. Your proctology exam is right now. Who, what, when, where, right? No, who, what, where, when, why. Why are they doing it to us? This is the only one that ever matters, and only then when we can see what they're doing or why they're doing it and apply it to understanding ourselves. Okay, the why of why they're doing it is the same why for everything they do, every aspect of the trick we've been talking about for 10 years. Okay, then I don't want to do an hour or two's sidebar. It tells you at the final sentence as to why they're doing it for themselves. You come out the bottom saying you must be an incredibly powerful entity if they're always trying to get up, I'm going to say it, in your business all the time and manipulate you and suck your energy. It tells you how powerful you are. That's the only why that we need to remember. But the why is more relevant than the others. The how. Well, as Steffers and a few others identified, they're using the color spectrum, and in this case, the color magenta, to literally manipulate reality itself. We don't need to know more than that. We're going to move on. Our first sponsor this evening is actually Bill. Bill, who does our posters, he's trying to raise between $4 and $6 million in a GoFundMe to put a truth production, a live truth production on Broadway. Now, if not on Broadway, we'll accept just off Broadway. We probably don't expect to be sandwiched in between Hamilton and the Book of Mormon, but just down 43rd Street, there's some abandoned theaters. We'll need $4, $5, or $6 million to make it happen. And what it is, it's a return to the production of Annie. No, we're not going to introduce Annie with a different race, although that would work. Annie of a different race, of course, is where it's going. They've done how many now? They've done white. They've done, they've done 3 races, I think. They'll continue to do all the races until all the Annies are done representing every single possible culture, creed, and race around the world. But this is totally different from that. This is taking the premise of Annie's premise was it's a hard knock life. I mean, it's hard. It's hard out here for a pimp when you're trying to get the money for the rent. You ain't knowing. Then you go, it's a not milk life for us. It's for truthers. It's a not milk life for us. See if this doesn't apply. Instead of treated, we get tricked, but no longer. Instead of kisses, we get kicked. It's a not milk life. I think it's brilliant. I think it will fill seats. And I think there's more truthers out there that want to see that sort of a production than Hamilton, Lin-Manuel Miranda running around with his horrible rapping and his horrible singing and his horrible dancing. Matt, you ruined it for us. Most people listening to the sound of your voice pop in their Blu-ray of Annie at least once or twice a year. You're not going to ever hear Hard Knock Life again as she's singing, no matter what race they insert as Annie as they go on, decade after decade. You're going to think we're here Not Milk Life. You go to your favorite rap station, then it'll be Jay-Z. He has a version of Hard Knock Life. You'll sing Not Milk. And then even Austin Powers 2 or 3. The prison scene where they did the Hard Knock Life, which is now to you and me not Milk Life. He says, Cristal, my moto, couple of biatches. You're going to cause a riot and we're going to walk out the front door. That's not Jeff Bezos, it's Dr. Evil. Is that 2 or 3? It might be Goldmember. It doesn't matter. The text itself is completely accurate. It's a not milk life for us. Instead of treated, we get tricked. Instead of kisses from those George Bush creatures, we get kicked. Okay, guys, this segment is trivial nonsense to a lot of people, so I promise 3 minutes or less. You know, I still watch these movie reviewers, of which like the top dog is the Critical Drinker with his 1 million+ subscribers and all his acolytes underneath, like Nerdrotic and the others, how they say, and I continue to watch because it fascinates me, like I've said before, 30 seconds or less here. None of these hundreds of movie reviewers even notice that this stuff is all being made bad on purpose. They continue to come with the same excuses. The writers hate the fans. The writers don't understand, or the corporate entity has hired writers that don't understand the original intent of the author or the original canon of the material. They're just out to present their woke themes and SJW themes over anything else, and they're just doing it for a quick profit, like destroying all your key characters and destroying all your assets is really good for profit. And then they would say, well, Matt, they only care about quarterly returns. That's the way the stock market in the United States works. It's the same old excuses. They have no idea of anything about what stands in the shadows that we call this not milk system. So I only wanted to mention one guy, this guy called the Dave Cullen Show, 200,000 subscribers. One person is getting a little bit confused. And 2 weeks ago, whatever it was, 3-4 weeks ago, it wasn't just yesterday, but he came out and said that basically he came out and said they know, or they must. He doesn't understand the way the world works, guys. Matt, that goes without saying. Just get on with it. He's saying they must understand. He says that these woke themes don't work. It must understand that their losses are stem from this, so they must change. He's basically at a breaking point, although he only mentioned this in one video, and the others don't even talk about it. I mean, at least he's got a clue that something is going on here, and he's saying they must know. See, it's all on purpose, of course. I mean, of course, every bit of it. They know exactly what they're doing. They're trying to piss us off. They don't care about profits. They don't need profits if they have a seat at the creepy table. These guys, these movie reviewers, are not going to understand any of that. They're going to think we're nuts for even mentioning it. But he's still what fascinates me is you'd think they'd all be getting to the breaking point, unlike this guy, the Dave Cullen show. He's like, well, something's got to give. They can't keep doing this. He doesn't understand it. But we finally have a breakthrough of some kind where one of these movie reviewers actually mention it. And, somebody's throwing rubber duckies. Matt, they're all system puppets. They're all working for the man. No, maybe some of the big ones are, but no, they're not. These maybe the little movie reviewers, they just parrot what they get from their leaders. But I don't know. I'm starting to be a little bit skeptical of the critical drinker, because he comes out and he says how great Andor is. I mean, the only way to say Andor, the Disney Andor, is any good is if you're comparing it. You would say he should come out and say the obvious. It just seems wonderful because everything else has been so bad, but he's presenting it as wonderful on its own. It is not, okay? It is wonderful compared to the absolute trash Disney has done with all the other Star Wars shows, like Obi-Wan Kenobi. Andor is not Star Wars. That's the thing. It's not Star Wars. You could replace that with any scenario, any country, any time, any place. What they do is they'll just fly a spaceship overhead that you recognize, like a Corinthian or a Corvette cruiser, whatever those things are called, or a TIE fighter will come around the corner once an episode. Oh, so now that makes it Star Wars. It's not. But it's decent. It is decent, but it's only decent in comparison to the absolute crap where Critical Drinker come out and say how great it is. What? The first 2 episodes of Andor are absolutely horrible. Then it gets much better. I've watched, I haven't seen more than tiny little snippets of all the other crap, guys, because I believe the reviewers have, and how horrible Obi-Wan is, or the Book of Boba Fett, how horrible. I just won't watch them. I've seen 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there, because this Andor is like, oh, this is pretty good. I started to watch it and give it a chance. Episodes 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 get decent, but it's still not very good. I mean, not very good at all. Again, just in comparison, why you would cast, it goes back to the same guy cast from Star Wars Rogue One. He played Button on whatever that free grazing, Open Range, the free grazing movie with Kevin Costner. Why you would cast this guy? This guy's the luckiest man in the world if you want to be inside the Not Nelk system. I mean, he wasn't good as Button. He wasn't good in Rogue One. And then they bring him back for a whole series. Matt, he must be a bloodline. Like, he probably sitting down the end of the table making little channels out of his mashed potatoes and gravy. Say, we got to do something with this guy. I don't know, make him the star of Rogue One, and then we'll do. I mean, you got to do something with these kids that are just causing problems for the bloodlines, I guess. I don't know. It doesn't make no sense why you would cast somebody like that. You could throw a dart into a crowd and get somebody that could act better. Again, Andor is based on Rogue One, so Forrest Whitaker makes another appearance. Forrest Whitaker, the greatest actor, one of the greatest actors of all time. All I see, the Forrest Whitaker and Andor, whatever planet they're on, all I see is a pissed off Jefferson. I see a pissed off Jefferson from Spicoli in Fast Times. No matter what, the character in Andor is nothing but a pissed off Jefferson with Spicoli hiding from him on the other side of the planet because he screwed up his car. Coming up now is the Stalled Century segment. Every old-fashioned radio show, I'm sure going forward, will have a Stalled Century segment. Probably every video I ever do will have one, because they're so desperate for whatever spell they're trying to deliver. There's so many different clown characters in this Not Milk system. They're throwing at us from yesteryear to stall something out. It's every time you turn around. This one is, I just found out yesterday, maybe it's been out a few more days, the trailer for the next Indiana Jones. I don't know if it's the fifth one, the sixth one. I know the Crystal Skull was before the last one. I guess this is the fifth one, but guys, okay, Harrison Ford is 80 years old. It's not a joke. He's 80 years old. And the movie reviewers are all confused. They don't understand Made Bad on Purpose, of course. They don't understand Stalled Century. They're like, well, why would they have him out doing all these stunts? And you could see that his face here riding a horse is CGI. Why are they trying to make the old? Because they're trying to destroy it. Just like they're just trying to destroy, or successfully destroying, every original franchise. It's part of their spell. It's Stalled Century on steroids, because the only thing that would make sense is if you had an older, dignified Indiana Jones who didn't do action stunts, who was the guide for maybe somebody coming up that will replace him if they're going to do 3 more of these movies over the next 10 years, who's not involved in running away from giant rolling boulders and trying to go across ravines with a whip. Just an older, dignified Indy who maybe would not be in the middle of the action sequences, but they're trying to do that with bad CGI. Of course, it's all going to be ruined on purpose. These idiot movie reviewers, look, they're on the download, folks. Just even though a lot of these people seem like they're more like us, they're not like as much like your cousin or others. They are on the ship of fools just like everybody else. They're going to, 10 years from now, you could put yourself in a cryo chamber that Matt Damon put himself in Interstellar. Wake up 10 years from now, the damn movie reviewers be saying the same thing. How come they keep putting forward the woke and the social justice warrior themes when they're not making money? They'll never come around to it. Nobody in the ship of fools will, until the few and the few, the 1% of the 1% of the 1% actually say F this and dive off the back of the ship, as we have done. And I'm going to do it again because the Stalled Century segment is always part of the Reality Gives Itself Away series. I didn't do any internet checking on Harrison Ford or his net worth or what property he owns or farmlands. It doesn't matter. Whatever the internet says, why would I believe it anyway? Royalties, Star Wars, come on. All the different franchises, the Tom Clancy, minimum he's worth $200 million to whatever, with certain investments that went right, $700-800 million. Come on. Harrison Ford, right? So he gets a call at 80 years. Let's just do it 1 minute or less, I promise. Gets a call. His agent. He's 80 years old. He's sitting in. I did some leaves and stuff the other. I could barely get out of bed. I was sore. 80 years old, sitting in a chair. He's sipping his tea. Any normal person, Matt, you're assuming he's like you. That's what Harrison Ford says in, what is it, Clear and Present Danger. You're assuming he's respectable. You're assuming Harrison Ford isn't an NPC with a soul animated locally, unlike you, a timeless spiritual being. I agree. But, we still think whatever these creeps are, they're still in the avatar. They're still in the body with the same flesh and bone and blood as us, and they still get sore, and they still get whatever we get. So 80-year-old man, he'd be like, the phone rings. Indy, we want you to, not Indy, Harrison Ford, we want you to do another About Henry? No, not another About Henry. That sucked the first time. Another Indiana Jones. Doesn't that sound, well, if the world were real, I'm 30, I'm 10 seconds over. Like, I'm 80 years old, and, if you wanted me to transition off to another Indiana Jones, we should have done it, oh God, that was Shia LaBeouf, that creep monster. He said, he could have said, we would have done this 8 years ago. I'm 80 years old. I just want to be left alone. Don't call here again. That's what would happen. But the world isn't very real, is it? Actually, guys, I think I forgot the sponsor, so let me just jam it in. No pun intended, because it goes along with the sponsor. Jam it in real quick here. It's an old sponsor, one of the originals. Michael O. Tuckguard Undergarments. Michael O. Tuckguard Undergarments, with a reminder this holiday season being sold with Erection Guard. at no additional cost. No more embarrassing situations. Michael O. Camouflaging undergarments. It says here, I have to read this, a gift for the entire family. Whose entire family would need? That's what it says here. It's apparently you could use this for the whole family. I don't see how, but the way the world is going, it is quite possible. Okay, a quick story that may introduce a new term into our circles. I'm going to call a reality binding behavior. A reality binding behavior, like creating your own Jacob Marley chains, but trying to get closer. The love of the world, the love of the reality, the love of what the Not Milk has to offer. Or you could call it maybe my term right now until you guys replace it with a better one, a reality marriage proposal. It's amazing how many of these I witness for the little I go out of the house. This particular story has to do with my father, and I have to use him as an example because, again, I don't interact with many people. The idea is when you notice people doing certain behaviors or just taking that step, trying to rebind with the reality, a reality marriage proposal. Some of us still have these behaviors. Not all of us have dropped all of our Jacob Marley chains. Not all of us have separated as far from the reality itself as far as they want to separate. So you notice the behaviors in others, which ultimately can help you. Now, this is an extreme example, but the idea is, are you noticing all of these as you interact with people? So long story short, 30 seconds or less, I found an old photo album where I am posing with my grandmother, long since dead, when I was still going to Penn State. My father, in the same restaurant, is then, we just turned the camera around, posing with my grandfather. So I find the old photo, and I'm like, hey, Dad hasn't seen this probably for, I don't know, how long has it been? It's got to be close to 30 years, right? So I put it in the car, and the next time I see him, I'm going to show it to him, and I keep it in the photo album. And I was driving. I'm like, wait a second, I forgot to show you this, Dad. Here, check this out. You haven't seen, and I don't think he doesn't have photo albums at home. He might not have seen a picture of his mother or father for 20 years. He doesn't seem to have any hanging around the house. He loved them very much. So I'm flipping through, and I found it. The first picture was me and my grandmother. Then there's 100 other photos of different things in the album. And he sees himself, the picture of him and my grandfather. And I'm like, well, look, here's a certain name for my grandmother. And he looks at that for just a second. He's like, well, did I see myself? And I'm like, yeah, you're here with Granddad. That's what we call my grandfather. And he immediately starts focusing on himself, saying, wow, he's always been very vain for years. He thought, should I get a facelift? And did I really look like that? Look how I looked. He's focusing on, I brought the picture out so he could see a picture of his mother and father and my grandparents. He immediately starts focusing on himself, saying, and I'm like, this is a reality marriage proposal. He's like, wow, look, I really did look like the way people say. And I'm going, what? It's just, of course, this relates to the 7 deadly sins, the vanity, the envy. You get to a certain point, literally somebody could come to me and say, Matt, you know everything you know now, but I'll take your looks and everything back to 25 years from now. I don't care one bit. I would say I'll take the 25 years ago if I get out of bed in the morning and I don't have a bad hip and a pain in my knee, and I could have that body back. I don't want to live any longer. Greg and I, we talk about this all the time. Matt, somebody comes in and offers you 20 more years, you'd take it in a second. Greg would not, neither would I. No, thank you. And you've heard me say this, and someone says, why don't you go jump off a bridge today then if you just want? Well, because I have more work to do for myself. The role I'm doing now, I believe, benefits others, and I'm going to keep doing it. But when the time is up, the time is up. I wouldn't take one extra day, nothing. I'm not joking. You come in, Matt, you'd take 30 years if somebody could wave a wand. No, I wouldn't. And you'd say, I'll take the 20-year body that doesn't have the pain in the knee, but I don't want 20 more years added on. Okay? It's just you do the kid in the beginning of, he looked like a kid in the beginning of About Time with Justin Timberlake. It turned out he was 120 years old. He gave all his time away to Justin Timberlake. He's like, I've had enough. I don't want to do this anymore. And he just died at the top of the bridge when his time ran out. He gave all his time in the movie About Time to Justin Timberlake. So my dad, within 10 seconds, he's looking at himself. Then he's And he borrowed the picture. Like, I'm going to show Donna, who he's dating. I'm going to show Donna how I used to look. I was like, okay, this is a reality marriage proposal. He has these behaviors. Most people around us do. I'm not picking. I'm trying. I mean, I don't interact with people. When these come up, I have to use them as examples. But you'll see just these, if you interact with people on the holidays, so many small things. And I doubt you should go up to them and say, that's a reality marriage proposal. But, and again, we don't have to go take our cardboard box either and live on the mountaintop. But these behaviors that come forth so often around us, we have nothing in common with. And look, if you're listening to me and you're 15, 20, 25, 30, and, a little bit of envy or looking in the mirror, you know what? It's okay. We all did it. It's okay. You're going to have a little conceitedness, or you want to do a selfie. It's okay if you're 25, 30 years old, but once you get 35, 40, okay, we're past all that. It's time to, but it's if some of these, of course, some of these behaviors, there's younger people, not that young, hopefully, that listen to this, but it's okay. You have a lot of time. You don't have to be perfect overnight. My opinion is this reality gives us, 10 major choices a day to get closer to it, to buy into it, potentially give a reality marriage proposal, drop down one knee before it and get closer to it, or another opportunity. Every opportunity, of course, that it gives you to get closer to it, you can use as a way to get farther and farther away from it. Or in this case, farther and farther is when you actually walk a physical distance or move a physical distance. If it's spiritual, we'd say further and further away from it. So these opportunities are great. Like, here's another opportunity to move further away from it. And it's not all or none. Again, it's not all the cardboard box. I don't know if I'll talk about it here, but the holiday season can be embraced. When I'm embracing it more and more. Okay, I'm upset at Knottnilk 7, 8 years ago, 5 years. I'm not doing one Christmas tree. I'm not doing one light. But I thought about it. I still have a few decorations that Pam gave me. I thought I can still celebrate what's good in people. And you can do your affirmations saying, I'm going to set up this little tree I have, this one little tree I have with these little lights, and say, you know what? This isn't worshiping Saturnalia or bowing down to what they say the holiday is. It's up to me. I can do my own celebration, a celebration of what's good and pure that's still left. This is a convergence of heaven and hell. It doesn't have any, just because you put it, even if it's Matt, even if it's a green Christmas tree, that's the pagan, you can affirm and make it whatever you want. You have the power to do that. So I thought, this isn't benefiting anybody. Just saying, I'm not going to put one. So I put the Nutcracker in the other day, and I'm listening to it. And I said, this can be as much our holiday as that. Just because you put up a little jingle bell sign or whatever, that does not mean, if you do your affirmations and you make it clear, you're giving any power over to the holiday that they want. And I thought, just by it's a humbug to be the other way. And say, I'm not doing anything. No, make it your own celebration. Remembering past times as a kid, the family getting together. We had 5, 6, 7 Christmases where the whole family came together. I have young memories of it. It was a wonderful experience. And I don't think the Knottnilk would want me to appreciate and bring that memory in some way back to life. It would want me to snuff it out. And I'm not going to do it. So there's nothing damning or evil about putting up Santa Claus or any holiday decorations, as long as you make an affirmation that this is for you and you are not bowing down to the holiday that they want to draw energy from you or their Saturnalia. Matt, we can do it just in a sentence? I believe, yes, we have that power. And it probably, if it can't get your energy with everybody believing in the Christmas that it wants, then it would want the opposite. It would want the Scrooges and the bah humbugs, and they would want people hating this season. And I'm not going to give them that either. I'm going to enjoy it more this year than I ever have. One last thing, guys, 1 minute or less about the Nutcracker. If anybody has small children, I would play the Nutcracker as much as possible around your best family times around Christmas or whatever you guys do. My family always did, and it hit me. I didn't give a shit about the dance of the Sugar Plum Fairies and all that. But it hit me recently. the beauty of it, the incredible nature of it's the whatever it is, the overture, then the Dance of the Sugar Plum Families, the Dance of the Sugar Plum Fairies. No, that doesn't have anything to do with San Francisco. It's a song from Tchaikovsky. And the Arabian dance is incredible. The Chinese dance, the Dance of the Reed Flute. There's 6 or 7. And if you get the right album, each of them, if they get long, is bad. But they move through this one. I have moves through them quickly, 3 to 4 minutes each. And it's incredible. It just hit me the other day, and this is the most incredible, magical feel. I mean, I'm so glad that I don't think it would. I know it wouldn't mean much of anything to me, and I wouldn't appreciate the beauty of that composition if it wasn't played for me as a kid. So I don't think it's cold outside and all these dumbass songs. But the Nutcracker. The young kids won't appreciate it, but boy, when they get to be 40 or 50, they will appreciate it. I can't recommend it enough. Oh, and one last thing, just to be clear, I didn't like it. I didn't like the Nutcracker music in my 20s or 30s or 40s. I could care less. I just didn't. It hit me recently, and I don't know why it happened, how it happened. I don't know, but I'm completely a different person now than I was then, and I think it's all part of it. The 2 TV shows or movies that I make sure I watch every holiday, and it's a big deal for me. Like, I know the day I'm going to watch it. I'll get my favorite IPA. I mean, you have to set it up to be a big deal. What else do I have to do? What else do I have to look forward to? A new Star Wars series by Disney? So, I don't watch it at any other time, so I have to make a big deal of it to make it special. It's the original Miracle on 34th Street. I don't know. Was it 41, Natalie Wood 42? And it's you've probably heard me say it before, the George C. Scott A Christmas Carol, not the new one or the other ones. The George C. Scott A Christmas Carol is the most incredible thing to me. He is a complete slave of the Knottnilk system, going to bed, a grumpy, nasty, and he has a complete spiritual transformation where he literally, they have to use the ghost, the ghost of Christmas past, present, future. They have to have a way of doing it. How else are they going to do it? But it represents a transformation that anybody can make. Not that you have to sit around with a bit of bad beef and wait for the ghost of Christmas past, present, and future to show up. It's just a way of saying something where maybe you can't do it in one night, but he has a complete spiritual transformation, and then he wants to go to the holiday party and interact with people. Matt, you need to learn some of that. You just sit in your cave all day. I do need to do better there, but it's just incredible to me. Does that mean he sold his business the next day? No, I still think you can operate inside the society and culture and still transform yourself. And I don't know why. It's an amazing movie to me. I enjoy it every year. Talk about things that they're trying to destroy on purpose that originally gave a beautiful, uplifting message, and then, they're going to get their hands on that and work to destroy it. I remember mentioning this a few times over the years, so I'll be a minute or less. The new Christmas Carol, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 years old, a Fox series, I believe, of 3 or 4 parts with that horrible, wretched actor, Guy Pearce. He was in Memento and The Time Machine and the bad guy in The Count of Monte Cristo. He's Scrooge, and what is some sort of sexual arrangement or a blackmail sexual arrangement with Tiny Tim's mother, Bob Cratchit's mother, to get treatment for Tiny Tim. She has to. I don't know if he tries to solicit her for sex or she actually goes through with it. I've blocked it out. It's so horrific. I've blocked it out, but I think it actually happens. And the other part, they have Scrooge as a young kid. He's got to stay over at the boys' home over Christmas or something because his father won't take him home. And then he's molested and abused by the the overseer of the boys' school. The sexual abuse is not in the original, by the way, if anybody's wondering, not in the original Christmas Carol. It's meant to destroy it. Just introducing that horrible, wretched Guy Pearce as the actor by itself gives reality away as trying to intentionally destroy it. So once again, guys, whether it be Christmas Stories or The Terminator or Star Wars, it's the same rules play out or axioms as to how reality must work. I mean, here we go again. The Star Wars, just plug it in, right? Plug it in, the same formula. The Star Wars closer to this date is a ruined mess. The Star Wars farthest from this date is the best. That doesn't quite rhyme, but it's the Scrooge closest to this date, or Christmas Carol, whatever they called it, closest to this date is a mess. The ones farthest from this date are the best. Matt, by that notion, make sure you see the 1955 movie. I will. Absolutely. I will. No doubt about it. Seems like as you move back through time, it gets better and better, the ones closer to this date. And it's not just movies, anything, any genre of art, throw a dart. It goes from the best to a mess. And I go to present that to my friend Tony and say, in every single case, and then it's just like, oh, let me stop for the My Favorite Martian download. The damn antennas go up, like, not milk transmission. Oh, see, Matt, they're on a budget today. And see, the creative artists are in other areas, and Hollywood can't find the good writers. And they always will chase the social justice warrior and woke themes because you don't realize the communist influence that have taken over these corporations, Matt, and essentially all social art across all genres. And just, well, hold on, the transmission was interrupted. Let me put the My Favorite Martian antennas up, continue to get the non-milk download, and continue to make excuses, the people around us do, to everything that we can see plain as day. It's the same formula or axiom that applies to all of art. Back in the day, this is one of my favorite pieces recently. I can't recommend it enough. Ravel, who I think Bolero sucks compared to this, but Ravel, it's like Daphnis, E-T, Chloe, C-H-L-O-E. I don't know how to pronounce it, right? Just type in Daphnis E-T, C-H-L-L-E, movement 2. It starts very quietly, like a little flute, then it gets bigger and bigger. I think it's segment or movement 2. Incredible. One of the most incredible things I've ever heard recently in classical music. And then what do we have today? The rap. The rap today is so horrible, it makes Juvenile, what did he sing? Back that ass up. 15 years ago, Juvenile singing Back That Ass Up, that's lyrical genius. That's a Beethoven, Bach, and Mozart compared to the rap of today. You a fine motherfucker, you gonna back that ass up. You a fine looking woman, you gonna back that ass up. That's genius compared to how bad it is today. So keep going back in time. Go back to Eric Satie in, what is that? Gymnopédies, whatever, or the Clair de Lune, whatever. Compare that. Oh, come on. I mean, this axiom, guys, it's never broken. It's incredible as you go back in time, everything across the board. It's just normal, Matt. Don't you know, Matt? That's the best a modern society can do. There's no evil forces at work here, you conspiracy sons of bitches. Thanks for listening.